Just might.
Good evening and welcome to DLP Youth Vibes. And this evening we are taking a twist. We will be looking at the just concluded St. James North by-election. And we'll be speaking with our candidate Felicia Dujon, who will join us later. But for this evening, we'll be looking at the recently concluded St. James North by-election. Yes, of course, we wanted to win this by-election, but even though we did not win, there are still some takeaways from the St. James North by-election, which we will speak to as on the panel this evening. So I invite you to like and share the posts and get your friends to come on. And of course, we welcome your comments. The panel joining me this evening, to my far left, you have Mr. Jason Phillips, our candidate for St. Peter, who was a regular feature in the St. James North by-election as a chairperson at meetings and also a spokesperson. Then we have Miss Malissa Howard, who is very hardworking and possibly very tired and sleepy still. Melissa played an integral role in the by-election. She's our candidate for Christchurch West Central. And Melissa was more or less within the campaign team coordinating activities throughout the by-election, and then she had an opportunity to get her feet wet in the election campaign. And to my right, we have our candidate for St. Michael North, Dr. Dawn Marie Armstrong, who you would have seen many times on the campaign trail as our leading spokesperson in sports, and defending well and batting well in the campaign. She also represented the Democratic Labour Party last night on the live watch night on CBC TV 8. And we have to the far right Dr. Elvis Whickham, who was a dream for everyone on the campaign trail, who were quite impressed with his presentation, his speeches, and the way how he managed and he carried himself and the facts that he delivered. And of course, he's not a stranger to DLP TV. So we invite you to join us tonight, like and share, and we also look forward to hearing your comments. But as we get into this discussion, all of Barbados would have had an opportunity over the last 6 hours to put their take on the St. James North by-election. But as the Democratic Labour Party, we are using this opportunity to put our take on it, because there were some takeaways from the election which we felt went well for us and things that we want to highlight. And some of these things were also highlighted by some of the political analysts and commentators. So I'll start by giving the panelists, starting with Dr. Dawn Marie Armstrong, what was one of the takeaways from this St. James North by-election? We are holding our head up high. We did not win, but we were able over the last 3 weeks to deliver a stellar campaign. So what were some of your takeaways?
I think for me, this will be the second time. Obviously, the Prime Minister has caught us off guard. I think now we have to be ready for anything. Hence the reason why it was necessary for Felicia to be back out on the road from today. I definitely feel as if we're in election mode. Everything now that we do must be political. Our messaging, and it was interesting to even be met in the public today. People saw me and they offered words of encouragement. They spoke about our platform delivery specifically. And it is interesting because people would say, oh, well, at least the criticism that came from the BLP's representative last night was that, oh, our platform delivery didn't connect with the audience. Well, the messages that I got today said otherwise. Our messages very well did connect with the electorate. I'm very, very excited to see what the coming months will bring, because people are listening. People have offered words, as I said, of encouragement. If there are any other by-elections, definitely put in a show. It seems to be the strategy of the Barbados Labour Party to try calling these by-elections and what they would think would be their strong seats. I don't know if they're trying to, hold on to these seats in the future. I don't know if the Prime Minister's exit is impending and perhaps she is wanting to I don't know, secure that legacy for the party in those strongholds. We don't know what that might be at this moment, but I definitely do feel Barbadians want us to continue fighting, and we do have to find a way again to get back to our people, get back to those strongholds, and continue to press on when we consider the fundamental and foundational values of our party.
Yes, very, very true. And one of the things that you mentioned, I believe that even though the election was called at very short notice, we were still able to present, get everything done within the time, from nomination to paying the deposit, nomination, starting our election campaign. And we mounted a solid campaign for the 3 weeks. So that is one of the things that it is actually a dry run for the general election. So if it is the intention of the Prime Minister, because we heard rumors of a possible by-election in St. Thomas. So if it is her intention to continue to run out the gamut, because I'm certain that our candidates learned something from this election, and it also gave us an opportunity to test our machinery for the general election. So I'll go next to Malissa Howard, who was actually very intimately involved. Tell us not only about your takeaways, but some of your experience in the campaign as well.
All right. My takeaways would be, this will be the first time for me speaking on a platform publicly. I wasn't speaking, but I was the co-host and chairpersons at several of the spot meetings and the major public meetings. I would say one of our major positives would have been the level of speeches that were on our platforms. Every candidate that spoke each night brought a high level of campaign speeches to the public. The public generally, I'm not just speaking about the St. James North constituents, but the Barbadian public, they were viewing every public meeting that we had. They were well streamed. The viewership was over 7,000 each time. So I would say that the message that the Democratic Labour Party is presenting to the people is being well received right now. We are growing. We just need to continue to do what we're doing and be consistent with everything that we're doing. For me personally, as you said, I was hands-on in the experience. I saw the tireless days that candidate had every day, from canvassing, doing interviews. And then even though she was tired from the canvassing and the interviews, she still had to push through and deliver speeches night after night after night, and she did a very good job. So yeah, for me, it was a learning experience, and I would take everything that I learned into my own campaign.
Okay. And also we have Dr. Elvis Whickham, who I believe you mentioned in your first speech that you never saw yourself speaking on the platform of a major political party, right? And this happened in this by-election. So tell us about your overall experience.
The experience was definitely an interesting one. Yes, that's correct. A week ago, I wouldn't have seen myself on a major political party's platform. The approach that I generally take in life is one which says, every experience I look to learn from. I look to learn from every experience in life. An obstacle in front of you could either be a stepping stone or a stumbling block. So I like to learn from experiences as much as I can, and I would take stepping stone concepts from this experience. I'm thankful for the opportunity to have been able to address issues of national concern, bring those issues to the attention of Barbados. I know there is a lot of content out there that, it's out there. The people heard, and those who didn't hear the first time around heard live, it's there on various YouTube channels that persons can now go back and listen to that content. And I certainly would encourage as many persons as possible to listen, to share, point out particular things to others. So because we have to get more of a conversation going. And as I said in one of my speeches, I think it's critical that we hear directly from persons what they're saying and not the skewed versions that media houses or some persons may sometimes present. So now that information is out there, and as a party, we were able to raise a number of very significant national issues and local issues as well. In fact, thanks to the local issues that were raised by the Democratic Labour Party, some roads at least got some patching, and I know they're promising some street lights, and they might get some playing fields, hopefully, and that it wasn't just empty promises on the part of the government to the constituents of St. James North, even on account of the Honorable Thorne raising the matter of special constables, you know, on platform one night, couple nights later, you know, a couple days later, instructions are given to pay, right? So, you know, we were effective in that regard in drawing attention to the issues of the constituents and getting some action there, and even nationally, like in the case of the special constable. And then there are other matters that are out there nationally, you know, being discussed that can talk about that others who may not have known, may not have been aware, can now see that information. So I'm thankful that we were able to get that stuff out there. But yeah, lots to look at and learn from the experience.
Yeah, and I see that the comments are already buzzing on online. We have a number of people. Our work has started. Continue, my comrades. Don't let talk deter you. Keep on moving. We have your back. The loyal opposition, we love you. And there were some other positive comments there, but after Jason's introductory comments, we'll go back and spend some time reading those comments. So I will just need to recruit a young eye to read the notice board.
Thank you, Mr. Worrell. Good evening, Barbados. And a special good evening to our Democratic Labour Party supporters and those of the St. James North. The Democratic Labour Party is a resilient party, and we know how to rebuild. The candidate, and indeed the leadership of the Democratic Labour Party, is energized. And come the general election, you will see what we are made of. Now, this by-election was rather interesting, Mr. Worrell. You have a voter list of 8,500 persons who are eligible to vote, yet only 3,200 persons voted. This says to me that there is voter apathy. For some reason, persons in the St. James North constituency felt as though the political parties were not offering sufficient for them. And indeed, the majority of them stayed at home. In essence, you have over 60% of the people not voting. While we lost the election, the government must consider that on the surface, all may look good and rosy, but underneath, this could very well blow up in your face. So they cannot feel excited. They cannot think as though that all is well and good. Now, this poses two challenges, or rather, there's a challenge for the Democratic Labour Party, and there's also opportunity. For Felicia Dujon, it says that she must connect more with her constituents. Get among the people, mingle with them, right? And win their trust. But it's an opportunity for us as well. Here in the Democratic Labour Party, we now have some wiggle room. There is a large segment of the constituents in St. James North that want to hear what are we bringing to the table. And Felicia Dujon can now use her influence to mobilize those constituents. And come the general election, we will show them what the Democratic Labour Party is made of. So that's my bit for the evening.
Okay, and I think that one of the things that people need to recognize is that, because you heard a lot of people saying, well, we knew that the by-election was coming since December, and we should have put someone in the field earlier. But as a political party, you also have to take into consideration, you don't just want to put someone in the field, you want to put the best person that you have. And we spent the time in terms of making that decision and identifying what we consider to be the best person. And Felicia had roughly 3 weeks, because immediately, as soon as she was selected as the candidate, and that was made known, what did the Barbados Labour Party do? They called the election. So if we had done this in December, when they would have done the same thing and called the election in December. So even if we had put someone in the field from December, from the time we announced the individual, they would have done the same thing and called the election so that they would only have 3 weeks to get to know the constituency. But I'm happy that Felicia said last night that she is not finished and she'll be back. And for the 3 weeks, she did cover a lot of ground.
She did.
Obviously, not enough to build relationships and to bring out the number of votes needed. But we have a general election coming out. And I believe that with Felicia working consistently in the constituency, that you can see an improvement on those numbers up until the time the general election is called.
I think that this election shows that she also has a base from which she can protect herself from. Right. So I'm motivated. I'm excited. I'm confident that going forward, Felicia Dujon is going to do well.
Right. And more of those 60% of the constituents who did not turn out may very well start to gravitate, because it means that they want to see something that they can hold on to, or that may be worth it. Dawn, you can jump in there with that.
No, I was going to say that Elvis kind of hit the nail on the head. And I think the government will now be taking the lead from us, you see, because they don't have a choice but to recognize that our platform delivery did resonate with the electorate. I think the microscope is now on them and their performance. I think the microscope is now on them and essentially looking at the direction within which they would steer the country within the next 6 months. I think we have been calling for an ease in the taxation. Most definitely, we've been calling for greater transparency with respect to how the taxes are being allocated. And I see this counter argument about, oh, well, the government revenue is included in the estimates, when we already know that some of those taxes are not accounted for in the estimates. And it seems as if the government still does not intend to give account for those taxes, even though we know that they've been borrowing, at an exorbitant rate at this stage. And we know that the taxes being collected are huge, the amounts that they're collecting. And there still is no real kind of accounting for that monies, and just using all the smoke and mirrors again to get people to kind of divert from the fact that they still have not been transparent and they still have not brought that integrity legislation that they've spoken about. So again, I definitely do feel we have actually won the hearts of the people who are on the ground, whether or not they were in St. James North. I think Barbados is watching, Barbados is listening. And I saw the comments, when our meetings went up on social media, and people would be like, who are they talking to? We're talking to the people online in the comforts of their homes, sitting down, actually becoming aware of what's happening in this country. And we must not discount the fact that we have had a tremendous impact in that virtual space. And it is hoped that in the coming months, those people come out from behind their screens and, support us across the individual constituencies. Because when you think about it, in a general election, the Prime Minister can't be everywhere. She can't stretch herself thin over 30 constituencies, getting everybody to support every candidate. So there will be a time where we will have the opportunity to capitalize in that respect. And I look forward to that time.
Yeah. And we said that we will look at the comments. So I'm going to ask the producer to scroll up to some of the comments, and I don't know if Melissa, if you're able to read them.
Mm-hmm. All right, we have a comment from Angel Humble. Dawn, I applaud you for the astute handling of Senator Liz Thompson last night. You were graceful and articulate in your delivery and did well to dismiss her disrespectful interruptions. Stay the course.
All right.
We have another one from Mona Lisa. Good night, DLP team. I am proud of all of you. Just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving. Lessons are learned from defeat.
And we are, well, definitely moving forward because we don't see this as anything to hold our head down and shame. We're definitely moving forward. And we have some other comments there.
I know his one mentioned stay the course, but we already know the intention within which it was said. But we already know where that phrase comes from, and we try not to utilize that.
Yeah, we have another comment from Esther Blue. Dr. Domri Armstrong, you are a gem, one of those shining stars that was hidden from the public. DLP is ready.
Right. And we really do appreciate the comments coming in from from our viewers and supporters as well. And we appreciate that. And, you know, thank you for encouraging us and keeping us going. One of the things that I wanted to mention, because we did get a little bit of criticism with regard to some nights retreating to, people said that we were retreating from the campaign trail and coming to do the LPTV or the LPU Vibes. But that also proved beneficial because there was a week in the campaign where you had to cancel nearly every meeting because of the weather.
Yeah.
And we were able to extend our viewers through the LPTV and keeping this platform alive. The reason why we are here tonight because we recognize the value of it and keeping the platform alive. So, Dr. Whickham, you spoke a lot about the importance of a strong opposition. Did you find that we utilized it effectively on our platform?
Yes, as I said, we have now a lot of content out there. We were able to shine a light on a number of national issues. In the case of the police service, it got immediate attention on one, and that was something that was not dealt with for at least 14 months or so. Then the matter really of the connection between certain senior politicians and persons known to the law. Attention was drawn to that as well. Cost of living crisis, of course. It was explained by a number of speakers that whereas a one-off payment of $300, you know, is take it, spend it, it's your money, which the government figured out how to give it to you. It was pointed out clearly that, you know, what would have been far better if you really want to give an ease to cost of living for persons would be a reduction in taxes, which is sustained over time as opposed to a one-off payment. A one-off payment, which, by the way, they had figured out how they were going to get from you before they gave it to you. All right, I got my last tax bill May 12th. Payment started May 14th. So before money was given out, you know, it was already gone. And you still have to deal with the high cost of living. So we were able to draw attention to a number of these issues, not just to the residents of St. James North, but indeed to the wider Barbados. So that I very much, you know, value that we were able to take that message out there.
Right. I wanted to come to the comment from CD, and that would lead us into another topic that we wanted to deal with. CD said, "Be proud of your performance, DLP. You were up against the government purse." And I want to deal with that there in terms of the spending that we saw in this campaign. The media, 4 or 5 political pseudoscientists, at least one NGO. So taking all of that into consideration, you did an excellent job. And that is very true because you had persons basically putting negativity on the campaign even before the candidates were actually nominated. And then, but I want to talk about the issue of the government purse and the spending that you saw in that campaign. Yes, we did have a platform of morality versus money, and it showed that it was necessary. So, Melissa, I'll start first. No, I'll start first with Jason.
Well, I jump in here. Thank you very much, Mr. Worrell. When you have a campaign, there's so much money being spent to produce, alter,
38.7% turnout.
you must ask the question, is the election fair and free? It cannot be fair when a government is utilizing special interest money.
The $300 payment that came on the 14th.
That is suggestive of, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it.
Vote buying.
Right, but I am perplexed and somewhat concerned with the amount of money in our politics, right? Because then the ordinary Barbadian does not really have a voice. If you have if you have information being smothered on one hand, on the other hand, the other side is pushing their narrative, then the public cannot get an honest opinion of what's going on in this country. For example, there's a lot of borrowing of money, and no one is really able to know how much money is being borrowed and where is it being spent. Another interesting thing is you're being taxed in every area possible. Barbadians are struggling, yet they're being taxed. You're being taxed on a credit card. So when you go overseas and you buy stock, you're taxed. When you come back here, the immigration tax you again. You're being taxed on your water, your sewage, right? The VAT is way too high. Barbadians are feeling the pinch in their pockets. Another example, there was a time you went to the supermarket, you got a bag. No, you shop for your groceries and they charge you for a bag. Those extra 50 cents that you will put in your top at home, you have to pay for a plastic bag. So if you go to the supermarket every day and you spend 50 cents on a bag, you're spending $15 a month paying taxes for a plastic bag when you could buy lunch with that plastic bag. This is not a caring government. Barbadians are feeling the pinch. And what is making it worse is that they are not allowed to know the true. They don't know exactly what is going on in the country. And this Democratic Labour Party will not sit idly by and allow this nonsense to continue. We will use every avenue within our power to get the message out because we are concerned with how the Barbados Labour Party government is taking advantage of people. They have overtaxed our people and they're trying to hoodwink the public. And we will not sit idly by and allow it.
Right, exactly. And then the person also mentioned the pseudo political scientists as well, who every single one of them had something negative to say about Felicia Dujon running in the campaign without even having a conversation with Felicia Dujon to know who she is, what ties that she may have had to the St. James North constituency. I know many of them knew that when Felicia Dujon first came to Barbados, that is where she lived, in the St. James North constituency, in the area of Weston. She has family who lives in that area. We did have quite a bit of support from a number of persons within that area who would have helped us out throughout the campaign. And even up to today, someone passed by the campaign house and said, yes, he knows her because I think his father, who's also a St. Lucian, knows Felicia Dujon, right? And so to say that she has no connection and no ties to the St. James North constituency, I find that a lot of our political scientists are pseudo-political scientists, as CD would have said, not my words, CD's words. It seems as though they just wake up in the morning, the first thing that comes to their mind is what they will spew when asked for a comment, without doing any background research on the individuals. And there's a difference between theoretical politics and actual politics on the ground. A by-election is an opportunity for an opposition party to put a national campaign, to bring national issues to the fore. Every single night that we spoke on a political platform, even when we did these DLP TV shows, they were carried by the media. And I found that we used the campaign effectively. For the first week, we spoke to broad issues: agriculture, housing, transportation, all of those things. And then as the campaign went along, you narrowed to the issues that, based on what you were hearing as you go canvassing. People were concerned about crime, the cost of living, healthcare, and all of those things. So from that, I see that as a win in terms of using it effectively. And all of those features or presentations were carried in the media. So therefore, we have started a conversation with Barbadians. And I don't know if it's the experience of any of the other sportspersons, but you also had people messaging you and saying, thank you for raising this thing as an issue.
But we got calls
Yes.
before, isn't it?
Go ahead.
We got calls like all throughout the campaign trail. People were asking us to speak to certain issues, and I mentioned the coaches at the National Sports Council. And obviously, again, last night, as the senator had her answers coming through her phone, she mentioned that the National Sports Council would be rebranded to Sport Barbados, and she laid out these fine plans. I really didn't pay much attention to it because there's no way that the government will be sending a message to the people of Barbados through a senator who is only there to analyze an election. So I do hope that there is a press release in the coming days, if it is indeed true, that the government send that out to the media houses and present to the Barbadian public exactly what's being done with the National Sports Council. Equally, I hope they'll be hosting some meetings with these coaches and these other workers across the island, allowing them to know what is happening, particularly, and again, they did not highlight that the major challenge was that these coaches were not sure on what condition would they be rehired. As I said, I heard that they were concerned about getting these temporary contracts after already working full-time, some of them close to pensionable age. So maybe the government needs to actually come with a clear-cut plan so that persons will be able to know exactly what is happening to the National Sports Council. If it is indeed Sport Barbados, who are the consultants? What are they being paid for? Who came up with the name? What does the logo look like? You know, to what extent will Sport Barbados be operating? What are the different facets? Is it a sport science-driven organization? Is it just something that, you know, the senator saw in a WhatsApp message and decided, okay, well, this is the answer? Is that the way the government or the prime minister chooses to communicate with their people? The people that voted them in for the 36% of people that voted in St. James North, was that the answer they deserved last night with respect to community development in this country, with respect to sport and development? I say no. I need to see something tangible about, you know, Sport Barbados coming from the GIS, coming from, you know, government comms, particularly because of the national benchmark, the national standard that the council has provided in terms of sport development.
Yeah, I want to come to that comment that is there from Sharon. And as she said, it has to be noted that people from other constituencies' eyes were opened and loved the campaign, but could not vote because we were not in St. James North. We look forward with enthusiasm to the general elections. And that is if an opposition party can effectively use a by-election to ignite and have a conversation with the rest of the country in preparation for a general election, that is effective use of a by-election. Because oftentimes in by-elections, a government would only call a by-election a seat in which it knows that it stands a good chance of winning. So therefore, the opposition party, in going into these by-elections, utilize the space to put your case against the government, because you know what? After the by-election, the general election has to come. And if you notice what has been going on in this country before this by-election, that's why I made the point about getting messages carried, especially on CBC. There was one night I noticed that every single sports person was carried on CBC. Do you know that before this by-election, we would send links to our press conferences to CBC, links to DLP TV and DLP Youth Voice to CBC, never touched, never carried. But they were carried during
The
the
campaign.
campaign. So more Barbadians got to see who our candidates are and hear the messaging that they plan to bring, and also, speak up, because I also saw comments there, and we were, it was one of the positives given by one of the political scientists that we highlighted fresh faces.
I think I wanted to add, because something that I also noted even last night during the election watch, each time a minister, the former candidate and MP for St. James North, every bit of airtime the Barbados Labour Party got, they utilize it not to speak to the people of Barbados about what they intend to do to take the country forward, but about how bad the Democratic Labour Party is, and about how bad this is, and about how bad the party this. And, Liz Thompson even went as far as stating, we believe in a dead man, and this and that, and the next and the third. And Emma Hinkson said, we're nothing but a pressure group. Well, he would know a lot about pressure after what he's been through these last few weeks. But I think for me at this point in time, the fact that the government utilized the time that they had last night to focus on the Democratic Labour Party should tell us, that we are very much still on their minds.
Mm-hmm.
They know what we did, and they do definitely see us as a threat. And I think to continue applying the pressure at this point in time will be our best strategy. If you believe that you have won and you have dominated and you are so grand and great, and it's something that I said, and the senator, again, I mentioned her name before, I promised that I wouldn't. But when she highlighted, you're continuing on with your platform speeches, yes, because that is our intention.
Yes.
Our intention was to raise the issues in this country. And each time we get the platform to do so, we will. Whereas your intention is to try to paint the Democratic Labour Party as, on its deathbed and far from resuscitation, when the electorate knows that it is not. And I think that is the one thing that we've done well.
Yeah.
We were able to raise a number of issues nationally in quite an effective manner, able to shine a light through the smoke and mirrors that the government presents. And, I want to get back to something that Jesus had started talking about, which I think it is very important to highlight even now as we go forward. And this is for all of Barbados, not just St. James North. And this is regard to the dire need for campaign financing reform, so to speak. There's a saying, he who pays the piper gets his tune played. Mm-hmm. And I remember, because we've gone through 2018, 2022, and now this by-election in St. George North, where we've seen, tremendous amounts of money, millions being spent in these election campaigns. And as I said, he who pays the piper gets his tune paid. I remember seeing the persons back in 2018, so this was before my involvement with a political party. I remember seeing the persons back then that we will find out in a few years who funded the campaign. And I remember saying to persons, how we're going to find out? We will see decisions being made that make no sense to us, but decisions that will make plenty sense to who they need to be made to. We will find out when a gift is not a gift. And Barbados knows what I mean. We will see things like this happening. We will see when decisions are made in the best interest of select groups or individuals and not the wider Barbados, because he who pays the piper gets his tune played. And if we are going to be serious about, doing what is right for Barbados to ensure that it's Barbadian money and that it isn't special interest groups in Barbados, it is, decisions are taken for the good of the wider country, not just special interest group, we seriously have to look at campaign financing reform in a very serious way, have a national discussion about that. As it stands right now, you have unlimited amounts of money being spent in campaigns and essentially buying votes. And its decisions are taken in the best interest of the backers, the elitist backers, with token gestures. And when a person is in a position that many are in, struggling with cost of living in this country, persons are going to take the money. It's a harsh reality. They're going to take the money. And that is what has been happening.
Exactly. And you said that we have to look at campaign finance and reform. But don't forget that we also raised the issue of the subvention. So we also need to look at the reform to the financing of political parties. And really, that was started by the political will of the then Prime Minister Owen,
Yes.
who saw it necessary. So if you have administration, if they have the political will, they can make all of these changes. But I do not see that they'll be willing to do it because that the way how it is now gives them a sense of control.
Yes.
But
Unlimited amounts of money.
Well,
And not
on what they
monitored, not
believe
monitored,
to be
not tracked.
power. But after the calls I received today, you know, about the frustrations, not just from the electorate, but from their supporters, you know, because we are accessible to everyone. I do feel that the Barbados Labour Party needs to take stock and get themselves in check, because even some of their own, I dare say, supporters and members are not happy with them and the way that things are being done, you know? So
well,
it is interesting.
it is very interesting. I also wanted to bring in Melissa because we were talking about the message, and I know that you spent a lot of time, you know, comparing the message from the Democratic Labour Party platform and also from the Barbados Labour Party platform. What are your thoughts on how they manage their campaign and their message?
The Barbados Labour Party campaign was slightly different. They didn't really touch on the issues that are hurting the Barbadian public. You heard comments such as the LPRTs or the DLP are a bunch of nasty, etc. So you saw we tried to keep a clean campaign. Well, they were slightly different. They were being nasty to us. They weren't dealing with the real issues, but they were assassinating our characters. Felicia, she spoke of the issues that were going on in St. James Nerve. She touched on the flooding, cost of living. She touched on the crime. She touched on the community center. She touched on the youth. So she touched on topics that were impacting the persons. Well, the Barbados Labour Party were not doing that.
Exactly, and they spent more time criticizing and calling me fluffy as opposed to responding to what I said with regard to healthcare and the issues. They then went on to a campaign to say that our candidate was shaming the big man, when he body shaming the big man when he's the person that started the conversation about going big. Right? So instead of dealing with what would be national issues, they had almost like a comedy fest. But I guess that appealed to persons.
Well, I'm very, very concerned, like some of my colleagues here on the panel, where they spoke about campaign contribution. Now, we see a lot of money being thrown around for an election. And we know who is getting the money. You see the big platforms, you see the artists and so on. But then it comes when there's a time for payback. And many of these entities, when they're not seeing their targets being met quarterly or whatever, government tend to create some emergency or to use the elements to create emergency spending. You get a lot of panic buying. And then the Barbadian public rush to these entities to spend their money. And then afterwards, you see it was, I don't know, it was unnecessary. And we must ask the question, is this Barbados Labour Party government acting in the interests of Barbadians? Or are they assisting their donors?
Correct. You can go to the Whole Town Civic Center. The Whole Town Civic Center is a classic example. You had a protest by a lot of Barbadians for that site, but yet still we were told, you know, you're wasting your time. The deal already gone through. So are they listening to the people, or are they listening to their campaign financiers? So to me, it seems as though it is the donors.
I want to highlight another issue that I raised on the campaign. You know that government put aside $6 million for the Startwise program.
Mm.
6 million taxpayers dollars. And this Startwise program is supposed to assist people who are at home, who are unemployed, or who are underemployed. And this program only produced 58 graduates. They said, I'm not criticizing the graduates. I'm criticizing the government and how they utilize the money. You can spend $6 million and only get 4 people graduating the program. It means that $103,448.27 was spent on a pupil, one pupil. And then only 15 of those people actually got work. Where did the money go? I'm not saying that it was spent on a campaign. I'm not saying that somebody pocketed the money. I am asking the question, where is the money? And I say nothing more than that.
And you find that anything to deal with big business is done well and done efficiently, but anything to deal with the small man, complete confusion and chaos, and probably does not get off the mark. Look at the Hope Housing. You have $60 million spent in Hope Housing, but how many houses were delivered to the lower income earners who would want to benefit from such a project where you get a cheaper house because the house earns money from renewable energy, but they allow that to go to the wayside? Where did the money go? You have also the Gemmett's Lane, the issue of the land, which shows that in this situation, why campaign financing reform and campaign financing may be necessary, because you need to know who is backing your political parties. It is done in the US, where you must register all of your campaign donations, and I think in some cases there's a cap on the amount that you can donate, because these things then persons will then influence government policy and the execution of the policy, and also impact then on the people, right? Because so these things are important, and as long as the country remains silent on these issues, the people will just be the victims.
But the Democratic Labour Party will not sit idly by and allow that to happen. We are very concerned with the amount of borrowing that the Barbados Labour Party-led government has placed on this country. Our Prime Minister is borrowing too much money, and it makes her government looks good. But is it healthy for the real economy? Who is going to repay this money?
In 2013, I believe there was a group called the Barbados Integrity Movement or something of that sort, which tried to give the impression that after the Democratic Labour Party won the 2013 election, because we were not expected to win that election, that we won because of, and they start speaking about the need to have transparency in campaign financing. I haven't heard from those persons. Are they still alive?
How many of those persons got certain positions?
There you go. One of the persons who was very vocal in that has gone dumb or deaf in terms of the process. And I believe that this person is one of the major supporters too of the political parties. So what is happening? Was it the Barbados Integrity Movement?
I can't remember the name, but there was something about integrity. But as I said, how many of those persons have certain positions now, and you can't hear anything out from them? You know, like I said, if we are going to be serious, let us know who donors are. Exactly. And what those donations are. Exactly. Let us put caps on donations. There are things you can do if you're going to be serious about integrity in elections and integrity in government. There are things that you can do because it is a fact of human nature. If someone gives you 50,000, 100,000, there's a very likelihood that looking for something back.
I think that St. James North is one of the areas where you actually see it working out, because for the time that we spent in St. James North, you have a lovely condominium here on the left side of the road, and then you have the normal community on the right hand side of the road. The condominium may have take up what should really be a footpath with a lawn, leaving a very narrow road. or no road at all for the residents in the community to get
Access
by
to the
with their
beach.
vehicle. All of these are things that could have a play in campaign financing because, you know, getting permission to change use of the property and town and country planning approval without questioning certain things as well.
On my way here, a resident from St. James North exclaimed his concern with the amount of money being spent in campaigns. And I understand why. Because when you spend large portions of money in a campaign, you undermine democracy. You're paying to own a country. You're paying to govern a country, and there's no proper governance when there is campaign spending that is through the roof. It is undermining our democracy, and Barbadians are fed up. Barbadians, and perhaps that is part of the reason we are having this voter apathy. People do not trust politicians anymore. There's too much money in politics, and the Prime Minister must speak to it. We need fair and free elections in Barbados.
Exactly. But I want to take the conversation now to the growth of our candidate, Felicia Dujon, and what you would have noticed as observing her throughout the campaign. So I'll start with you, Dawn, and then go to Malissa in terms of the growth of our candidate throughout the campaign.
I think that I stated this clearly before. Felicia's work ethic, I think, is something that all of us can take out of her book, a page we can take out of her book. To be able to cover the amount of ground that she did in the short space of time that she did, I still feel as if it was a phenomenal job on her part. I mean, I'm here and I'm tired. I could only imagine how tired she's been, and yet she's presented herself here, you know, all polished and all graceful. And I do feel that those qualities, when seeking public office, that ability to be, you know, you're multitasking, you have to be present, you're doing your interviews, you're still, you know, looking out for and looking after the needs of constituents. I definitely feel within this space there's a need to be multifaceted, and I think it's something that she's done really well in the past 3 weeks.
And for you, Melissa?
Okay, she had basically 3 weeks for this campaign. So I would say over the first week and a half, the Felicia that I saw was someone that went into the constituency with a determination to meet as many persons that she could possibly meet. She was canvassing every day relentlessly for many hours. We would possibly want to break for an hour for lunch, but Felicia would eat for like 10 minutes and say, all right, let's go back on the road. She would try to speak with individuals, you know, as quickly as she possibly could so she could see more. But as the latter half of the campaign came, I saw a Felicia that was a little bit more caring, a little bit more empathetic to the individuals that she met. She took a little bit more time to speak to the constituents, even if it meant that she would not be able to see 5 more persons. She took the time out to listen to that individual that was presented in front of her. You saw a Felicia that there were several moments where she was even brought to tears, sitting, speaking to constituents. So we saw a Felicia, normally in front of the camera, we would see a Felicia that is fierce and bold and a lioness. But this lioness and this fierce individual was brought to tears many times speaking to constituents. So I saw a more caring individual as the campaign went along, and I saw the softness of Felicia as the campaign went along.
Right. Very, very true. And I actually have to say that I was quite impressed with Felicia with her determination and her commitment to the campaign, and especially her focus and the delivery of that report on Monday night. I think she went on for over an hour. And
Almost
she touched,
almost 2 hours.
almost 2 hours, and she touched every single aspect of things that matter. And that is something, it's also one thing that we need to use social media a little bit more and better. That is something that every Barbadian needs to see, because her policy is not just her policies for St. James North, but also that policies that can be utilized by the Democratic Labour Party in their manifesto for a new government. But I want to bring to you a bit of breaking news. Adjustments to 2 petroleum products, kerosene on change. And less than 24 hours after the St. James North by-election, and not mentioned or spoken at all by even the Minister of Energy or the Prime Minister on the campaign trail, consumers will pay more for gasoline and diesel effective midnight Thursday, May 22nd, while kerosene remains unchanged. The price of gasoline will move to $3.95 per liter. I'm certain the residents of St. James North would have wanted to know this prior to the by-election. An increase of 6 cents, while diesel will go up by 7 cents and now cost $3.40 per liter. Kerosene will remain at $1.26 per liter. And this is a lie. The Ministry of Energy has advised that going forward, the consuming public can expect to benefit from the continuation of government's policies, which mandates that retail prices should be reflective of those on the international market.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
We only get the increases, we never get the decreases.
Yes, it's true.
So breaking news in Barbados for the week today.
And that's on GIS, my news.
So you were given a payment of $300 the 14th of May prior to the election. I know one day, less than 24 hours. Yes.
Yeah.
Gas is going up tonight.
And not mentioned at all.
Which means that food and everything else will go up as well.
Yeah.
That is.
I said they had already worked on it, and clearly this was in the works before.
Yeah.
Because adjustments, historically
They
would have been
normally
made at
come
the beginning of the month.
The first Sunday.
It was about very.
Yeah, but by that time the election was already called, because they announced the election. I think,
True, and they don't want
Right.
any.
We
That's actually pretty sick. Like,
and to show that
that
they
is
don't even care.
diabolical. That is
They didn't even wait a
diabolical.
week after the election to make the announcement. Made it less
than 24 hours. Less than 24 hours.
All right, we done got what we want on the tech day.
Like I said, they had already worked out how they were going to get back the 300 of your money before they gave it to you. They had already worked out how they were going to get it
So they
back.
just gain compensation for the 53 million? Is that what the Prime Minister said? The $123,300 that she gave out, equivalent to 53 million?
Senator Walter had been pointing out for almost a year and a half the reductions which we should have gotten in keeping with international oil prices. We never got. Barely once in that 40-month span, in spite of his repeated pushing. And look, it's back up in the air already, less than 24 hours. And of course, they knew that before they started by election. I'm pretty sure they did.
And as Dr. Esprit said, who is going to feel the pinch? You are, the consumers.
Yep.
The average person.
The average person. And I want to mention that there was a comment earlier that went by in terms of talking about Dr. Esprit's presentation, where he laid out all of the ways in which the government increased taxes and cost of living. And remember, on the first week of their campaign, they gave you the impression that the cost of living in this country is high because of what? COVID and asphalt. And they can't do anything about
What I
it.
am interested in hearing from the government going forward, though, because surely the raise in the gas prices have nothing to do with what the Democratic Labour Party did between 2008 and 2018. I think that rhetoric of comparing their performance now to the Democratic Labour Party's performance back in 2008 to 2018, which was significantly better than their performance now, is something that I think the electorate is tired of. That rhetoric that they're doing so much better and has done so much better. You heard the senator flat out lie last night and say that, oh, you know, Bajans are taxed less. No. I hope that this is at the front page of the nation tomorrow, staring Barbadians full in their faces right after the votes were tallied in a by-election, that this government is relentless on bleeding this country dry. I really hope that this is seen on tomorrow's news.
But Doc, let me say this to you. The reason the cost of living is so high in Barbados is the high taxation. And we must lay it squarely on the
Yeah.
government's feet.
They could give Barbadians the ease if they wanted to. And again, this is where the integrity legislation comes into play. Because if you are not telling Barbadians where the revenue is going, all right, we see that loans are being borrowed. The Prime Minister bragged about getting grants and free money. If you are getting all of this support from international
Lower the
lenders,
taxes.
and you understand, be transparent about the taxation. Tell Barbadians where the money is, how much the money is, and let Barbadians decide whether or not they deserve the ease. I think it is only fair that as stakeholders in the governance of this country, because what we see as the government are the persons that we have elected to lead the government, but we are the government,
You know what?
you know, fundamentally.
Government, let me put it this way. Our government leaders, those who sit in parliament, they are sitting on cushion pay packets.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really
that
feel the
point.
squeeze
Yeah.
of the.
You know what? I think we need to march on the taxation in this country. I think we need to march on the taxation in this country. I think that Barbadians need to really, if this story becomes prominent, right, in tomorrow's headlines, that this government has risen gas prices yet again. I think Barbadians need to come out and march for their integrity legislation. I think the government needs, and I said it last night, and the senator, but all around the question, how much are you making at the pump? How much are you making in the sewage tax? We know that there was a slip of the tongue and even a boss when Clay Masco was on brass tacks. Is it about 2 or 3 years ago? It could be.
Mhm.
We know that it probably was a Freudian slip and he just carried on and carried on. If it is in fact true that the government is collecting 80 million Barbados dollars in sewage tax per month alone, you could calculate those figures. If it is true, the government needs to bring to the people of Barbados a full account, or I think we should get out and march. We should. This is a joke. To squeeze who? The average person. Barbadians are suffering.
Yeah, but the reality is that these high taxes are not just squeezing Barbadians' pockets, but it's making the country unproductive and uncompetitive. The tourism industry, majority of our productive sectors are feeling the pinch because of these high taxes. And
Yeah,
it is really the government that has this country in a stranglehold.
Well,
it
Andrea,
does.
the tourists now are going to avoid coming to Barbados and go to destinations that are much cheaper. Barbados is way too high for what we have here to offer the tourists. The roads are in potholes and so on. You have a high price destination, and then when you get to Barbados, the roads are in a disarray.
And if you're renting a vehicle, it's $10 a day on the rental.
Yeah.
What madness is that?
Yeah.
I mean, you try to keep your car rental rates as low as possible to benefit persons, but then you have $10 a day rental rate, which comes out in the budget. It makes absolutely no sense. And all of and we think that this is a government that is doing well for the people of Barbados. They're not. And to increase these prices now, at the time when Ryan mentioned that gas prices are going down, it shows that the government is just in a serious tax grab, and the country is not performing as well as they would have to be.
And this on the back of the fact that we never got the full benefit of the reduction in oil prices that we should have in the first place. But as was pointed out, and this Barbados, we need to clearly understand, when you're part of that army of consultants or ministers, largest cabinet, if not the largest per capita in the Commonwealth, and you're making north of 15,000 consultants and ministers, 20,000+. it isn't a big deal for you.
Mhm.
It's not a big deal, but the majority of Barbadians are making less than $6,000 per month.
Mhm.
So it really then is a big deal for the majority of Barbadians. The $300 that we barely got a few days ago is already gone.
Mhm.
It is gone. And the net effect of the increase in fuel prices, you will likely, in a short order, depending on how much driving you do around Barbados, you will spend more than that $300 that you just got.
Exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous. This. I wonder who said the BLP are masters of trickery.
Smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors.
Smoke
You
and
had
mirrors.
an entire election campaign for 3 weeks.
And you did not
You-
mention once that
And
you
you
intend
knew
to
it was
raise the
coming.
price of gas. And it's not something that somebody wakes up and say, oh, let's raise gas this morning. No. And you know what? Even when we consider the central bank reports and the governor coming out ever so often and projecting this growth and this growth and this growth, when are we going to be honest with ourselves and call this government into account? What is happening in this country is not right.
Mhm.
It is not right, and it is so distasteful to even see. Is this one of the big plans that the big man had?
Mhm.
Did the big man know that this is what was happening today on May 22nd?
Even
for
if he
the
did, he could have talked.
for the electors in St. James North. I just think the behavior at this stage is just absolutely disgusting, with a total disregard for the
Disrespectful to the
constituents
people of
that
Barbados. Disrespectful.
voted for them.
Well, tonight we have joining us on the show, someone who may be very tired after being the pocket rocket in the St. James North constituency for the last couple of weeks. So we want to welcome onto our show a candidate for St. James North, Miss Felicia Dujon, and also to say to you that we're very proud of you. And we really were inspired by what you did over the last couple of weeks in St. James North.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you to the viewers. Thank you, comrades, and keep up the good work. I was very proud of my team as well. I know that everyone did an extremely good job on that day. I want to personally thank the constituents of St. James North. I want to share my heartfelt gratitude, love, and of course, I would say at this point, we feel very peaceful that we did what we were required to do. We worked extremely hard and we came with you with open hands to share exactly who we are. So I want to thank every member of the constituents, for those who opened their doors and allowed us to speak, for those who shed the waters and shed their tears and shed their most intimate concerns. I want to thank you. I know it's not difficult. It's been very difficult, a very difficult journey. So I want to also share that I will be there to continue that journey with them. What we have seen coming from this by-election is that the cries of the people have been left unheard for a very long time. And I believe that the Democratic Labour Party, we have now need to focus on those kinds of concerns. And I believe every member of this country now realizes that perhaps in every constituency may face the same kinds of challenges from St. James North. St. James North has opened our eyes, and I think at this point, we should no longer close it to the concerns that they have raised. They have raised concerns not only dealing with the infrastructure. The single mothers and fathers are still have the same needs that everyone has. We're seeing the elderly, the disability. So these concerns are real concerns, real experiences of persons that are vulnerable within our society, and we need to advocate and intervene on their behalf. So I'm appealing to all our candidates in all our constituencies to get back to the constituents and to ensure that we continue the work that we're doing. This is the time that we should continue and walk strongly in what our mission is. The mission has not stopped. The mission continues because the voices of the people must be heard. And I think this is what is paramount out of what we have learned from this lesson, that there is a great need to advocate and champion on the voices of citizens of Barbados. And what we have seen, and I would also say, now that they have a new MP, I am hoping that he's going to do better than the previous MP. I hope that now the constituents recognize that they have an MP that is in government and they have the responsibility to assist in the areas that I've highlighted for them. So the issues dealing with infrastructure, single mothers, the elderly, all of those matters, including the matters relating to the youth, and having those community centers and those playgrounds, these are important matters. So I would urge the constituents of St. James North to start going to the constituency office, start picking up your phone and put the Barbados Labour Party to work. They need to continue to work. I have raised the alarm on your behalf. I will continue to raise the alarm on your behalf, but it is now, I hope that I've given you the strength to stand up and to speak about the concerns that you have. If I can do it, you can also do it. You've given me the courage to stand up against this government, to let them know that you have concerns. And I believe now that they've heard those concerns, now it is the time for them to act upon your behalf. So that is the challenge that I think we'll be looking at, because I believe that the Barbados Labour Party believes that winning an election is all that matters. And I believe that they also have to remember that a vote is people, that their policies must be personal, people-centered. And I think when people vote for you, you have a sacred responsibility to assist. And so this election, I hope, and I'm hoping, that the Barbados Labour Party has now understood that even though it is a safe seat, it does not mean that you do not help the people. It does not mean that you neglect them. It does not mean that you forget about the most vulnerable in your constituencies. And I believe at this point, every member, and I'm saying that, I'm going to reiterate it, every member of this society now have to raise the alarm and advocate on behalf of the most vulnerable in their constituencies, because we know who they are. And I think this is what we have to focus on at this point.
I thank you, Felicia. I'm very glad that you said something there. They need to bombard him. And at his constituency office, lining up every day to have all of their needs met, because I understand that their wrong message was, yes, Hingston was no use. That is why we changed him. Felicia will not be in government and can't help, but Chad can.
Okay.
So like you said, they need to bombard his office and make sure that they get the assistance they need. They need, if there's a road that needs fixing, bombard his office.
And if they don't know, they can call me too, and I'll tell them exactly where the constituents, I just want to share that as well. Because part of running an election and canvassing is, as you have seen, we have seen there are several areas of concern, and that even though that my comrades were not part of the constituent, they themselves saw as well. So I'm urging the constituents, so now that he's been sworn in, now the government is responsible to ensure that they are taken care of. If you need any help, please reach out to me and we will go and ensure that these matters are taken care of. We will inform that the lighting would be done. 400 lighting will be done, and especially those lighting in Cyan Hill and Yearwood and all of those areas. I'm hoping that will be done very soon, because you got the vote, you have been elected. I hope that will be done. The roads will be done as well. I hope the single mothers will get the kind of a relief. And I think this is very important and very crucial at this point. Single parents, mothers and fathers have been begging more or less to get the kind of intervention. So the very same way that we have $300 to give during an election, I think those $300 can be given as a monthly initiative or monthly subsidy to families in the constituency. So constituents, I am still there with you. I have not gone anywhere. I just needed a day to rest. I know you didn't see me today. I spent the majority of the day resting. But as of tomorrow, I will be back into the constituency. And please come to me. My office, one of my office will hopefully remain open. Come to me. You still have my number. Call me so that we can ensure that we get the intervention and the help that you deserve. Elections is not only about winning an election. It is about the people. And where, as I said to you before, whether I win or lose, I will continue to advocate and champion and amplify your voice, whether I'm in parliament or not. And sometimes we may not question what God has done. So what we need to do right now is to continue to ensure that the people receive the kinds of services that taxpayers are paying, those high taxes that taxpayers are paying for.
Yep, and you are getting quite a few messages and comments on from our
Oh, I
viewers
can't
as
see
well.
her.
So I think that we need to spend some time reading some of them. Dawn, you have the glasses, so test them out right now.
It says, good night to you, Miss Dujon, and all the best to you. Keep the faith. You will make it the next time around. We love you always. And that's from Diana Husband. I think I had saw another there that stated, yeah, there are lots and lots and lots of comments coming through.
Yeah, there were.
Welcome, Felicia. That was some person that welcomed you.
Superwoman. Online, stay strong.
Stay strong. Good night, Felicia Dujon. I didn't realize you were resting today. I thought that when you came and you left, that was you coming back in from working. You know, you don't get no rest.
No, I tried my best today, and I needed to rest. I felt my body just
I
needed
could
to
tell
sleep.
you. I
It was
can't wait.
very, and I think that's what it is. I tried to answer as many calls. I received many calls and messages today, and I really appreciate all of the support. And that support is not only for Felicia Dujon, but it is for the Democratic Labour Party.
Indeed.
We need to be reminded that our party's function and role is to ensure that we stand up on the rights of every citizen in this country. And if I may add, there is something that I learned, and I said it's a defining moment, that the Democratic Labour Party will never be a party that keeps its people in a place where they have to beg for handouts
I'm telling you.
or for them to be buying votes in any way or fashion. The Democratic Labour Party is really about empowerment of people. And I think this is the difference between the Democratic Labour Party and the Barbados Labour Party. Because what I observed is that people feel that if I don't vote for them, they won't fix my house. If I don't vote for them, I would not get the kinds of, the little amenities or whatever that I get. But the Democratic Labour Party is about empowerment of people so that you do not have to feel that we have to buy your vote. And we had a number of concerns of that. I will give one example. While I was canvassing, I saw this gentleman sitting, an elder sitting outside, waiting on the steps. And I asked, why are you here? Why? Because I'm just passing to say hello. And it was after 1. Then he's telling me that they called him and they promised him that he will get a new indoor bathroom. And hopefully that with his vote, he will be able to get the bathroom. However, when I asked him what time he was there, he said he was sitting there from since 7 o'clock. And to this day, they have not visited that elder. They have not visited him at any point. So I think these are some of the kinds of concerns that we need to look at. That when you look at voting, when you look at the responsibility of a government, it's really about providing that kind of intervention, providing that kind of constant visitations of the constituents, ensuring that the constituents are in a better place than what they left. And so hopefully, as I said before, you will see, hopefully before we will see that the people of St. James North has understood their responsibility as citizens, responsible citizens, that they now understand what their rights are. They now understand the role of government and MPs, and hopefully these matters can be dealt with a different way, that people can be treated with some form of dignity and pride.
I will repeat again. They need to bombard him.
Yeah, well, they should.
They need to
They
bombard
should.
him. Jason, I don't know if you have any comment.
Well, look, just advance what you say. That they need to put the representative feet to the fire, right? He claimed that he's the better candidate. Let him show that to the constituents of St. James North. I am still concerned with the lack of proper representation in the constituency. When I traversed the constituency of St. James North, I was shocked by the level of
Neglect.
within that constituency, seeing that it was represented by a BLP representative for 35 years. And that speaks to the level of stewardship that the Barbados Labour Party has given to the constituents of St. James North. They have taken those people for granted, right? It's like a person in a relationship, and because you know that your spouse is there for you, you go out and you do what you do, and you forget about that person who loves you. The people of St. James North have shown that they care about the Barbados Labour Party. They have given them their support. And what have they got in return? Neglect. They have been taken for granted. And it's high time that we Barbadians, and I'm speaking to the whole Barbados now, we must start looking at the issues. We must hold politicians accountable. Do not allow persons to mamaga you. The days of corned beef and biscuit politics are over. We in the Democratic Labour Party is a caring party. We have a track record of helping ordinary Barbadians. We have instituted free education, free school meals, free healthcare, and the list goes on. Our policies have always been people-centered. And we will continue to serve the good people of Barbados, even though we are in opposition. We will speak out against the issues that affect you, issues that do not work in your favor. You know why? Because we care. As I said earlier, we are energized and we are motivated, and we will do what is necessary to win your hearts, because we will form the next government.
Okay, thank you, Jason. And we have joining us tonight our political leader, Ralph Thorne, who I am sure is also very tired, and hopefully he had an opportunity to have some refreshment today, but he has been on the campaign trail, and I want to say that I was also inspired by you on the campaign. You were there with us in the trenches all throughout, and every single night you brought a solid message.
Yeah.
And things that, and people actually were leaning in to hear what you had to say. You're off to her Worrell feet on the campaign trail. So I want to hear from you overall. We didn't win, but what are your takeaways from the St. James North by-election?
Thanks, Andre. Good night to everyone. We did not win, but we won a lot of admirers. I had so many calls and WhatsApp messages. And let me apologize to those persons whose WhatsApp messages I have not had the opportunity to return it yet. When I wake early tomorrow morning, I'm going to return a lot of them. First of all, let me commend Pocket Rocket. I'm the one who gave her that nickname. I remember one evening we went to a house, and I knew the people, and Felicia spoke and introduced herself and so on, had a short conversation. And I'm there talking with the people, and Felicia looks at me as if to say, okay, you stay there. She was not wasting time. And I think Don spoke about work ethic. Don? Yeah, an amazing work ethic. And she went through this campaign as if she truthfully intended to speak to all 7,800. I think they increased the number by 1,000 a few days later. So I want to commend Dawn. Not Dawn. Dawn too. Felicia.
Yeah, Dawn as well.
Dawn as well. I want to commend Felicia for her sense of dignity. 24 hours ago, we were all feeling really down.
Mm.
And I remember seeing you walking down the street by the office in Mount Starpass. I said, that looks like a walk up defeat. Chill, Andre, chill. 24 hours ago, we weren't feeling happy. And here we are, 24 hours later, committing to the task of speaking up for the voiceless, speaking up for those who are oppressed. I heard the panel earlier on my way down, the question of new taxes added to inflation. And we haven't had a more incisive explanation for inflation. I think it was you, Jason, that said it, that the reality is that heavy taxation will affect prices immediately. And a lot of Barbadians are not quite aware of that.
I want to jump in and say
Yes,
this to you.
please.
For example, they tax your credit card. So you go overseas and the government here is getting money from you. And when you come back here, they tax you again. So we're getting taxes upon taxes. And that can't augur well for the ordinary Barbadian.
What is happening to it, Jason?
Tell me, you work,
Taxes.
where's it going?
Where is it going?
There's no oversight, there's no parliamentary oversight right now. That's why we need a bigger opposition, right? You know,
Right. I think that's why we need a better government. That is what the Democratic Labour Party is willing to bring.
But 24 hours later, we're here. We're here, and that is true. That is a strong tribute to the quality of this party.
It's not for the faint at heart.
Mhm.
This is not, and I think that's what we need to remember, that being in politics and being a politician, it's not about self. So people can say whatever they want about you individually, about Felicia, about Worrell, but really it's a mission. You're serving people, so it's bigger than you.
Yeah.
So there's no way that, and I know that many of us felt terribly last night.
Oh, yeah.
But I said, no, let's go and face the people and stand strong, because we are doing what God expects us to do. You came to serve people. It's not about you, whether you feel you're at loss because you didn't win, but the mission is about the people. So there's no winning or losing when it's a mission that there's nothing to be embarrassed about, because you went in to help and to serve.
Yes.
And this is what it's supposed to be about. And that's why I tell people, you must know how to separate your personal self from your duty as a citizen. Our duty, there's nothing to be ashamed of or nothing to feel bad about that you did not get but you still serve.
Yeah.
And service is something noble.
Yeah.
And it will always. So when I saw how some of my comrades like, no, stand up. We need to go forward, because this is about the service of the people, and this is why we were placed there. And I believe that the people of St. James North recognize that, because every single day from the time the by-election was called, we were there.
Yes.
We went to every single house. And as I said before, I want to thank them. They opened their hearts and their doors and allowed us to come into that space, that sacred space where people neglected them more or less. They allowed us to come in and see what is happening. And that's something that the Barbados Labour Party has not experienced. They haven't seen or shared those experiences that the people felt comfortable enough to share with us. And so I think that is very important. The trust that we have built is going to go a very long way. And I think what we need to do now is to remind the government, whichever representative is there, that the people need you to intervene on their behalf. The people have voted for you. Now it is time to get the job done. We have to get away from campaign mode and make sure that the people are being served. We need all of the promises that you make. We will be there. Me, particular, Felicia Dujon will be there. So you're not going to have an easy way with that we are going to be there to make sure and ensure that those promises are made and that people feel comfortable enough to raise those concerns, because there seems to have some element of fear that I do not want to speak up about the roads, because I don't want to not get the kinds of help or assistance that I would. People with disability, a household that has 5 persons, holes in the roof, holes on the flooring, with children in the house. We have voted for this government, we have voted for this party, but they're not intervening. And if we do say something, we will not get a little help. And I think it's really about empowerment of the people. We need to empower people so people do not have to feel, well, I'm not going to say much. I will stay in the conditions that I am, because if I speak up too loud, I'll be victimized. And I could reassure the people of St. James North, as long as I'm alive, they will not victimize you.
I just want to remind Barbadians, though, that the Democratic Labour Party is a resilient party.
Oh, yeah.
And we are here for the long haul.
In fact, our presence here, Jason, it's evidence
Oh, yes.
of our selflessness.
Service.
Because I have not seen a party, a defeated party, do what we're doing here
Oh, no.
ever.
Mm.
Rest today and come out ready to go again.
As I said, we are
Ready-
energized, we are ready.
To stand in the gap,
Mm.
to speak for those who are afraid to speak.
Yes.
I wanted to say something about Weston when we went to Weston last week, where we did the drive-through.
Yeah, you could go ahead.
I was circling the car, and we thought it was hostile, and it was not.
No.
A few days before, y'all talked about the gas prices today,
Yes.
and they did a road in Weston
Yes.
literally 2 days before the election.
Yeah.
Paved the road.
And we
in Weston.
spoke about the roads.
Yeah, this man came down there, he's carrying on and saying, look, them couple put this road wasn't needed down here, but this just for the election.
Yeah.
So that people are aware. People, people know what the government is doing. People understand the trickery involved in the elective process. So, but I want to pay tribute to all of you for having the courage to sit here tonight, 24 hours after a defeat.
We have a good leader.
Right?
I just want to say that we do have a good leader, that you have continued to be there with us at every step of the moment. So we do not feel that we're here alone. We have the people coming to support us. And let's be real about it. Members of the Barbados Labour Party voted for us too. So that's a plus for me. Thank you very much for the vote, because they understand the need for us, for people to do better on their behalf. So there is a shift, and the low turnout tells you that as well. I mean, if you can glorify for a voters turnout, I think it's 38%.
37.84%.
You won by 2,000. You're supposed to be the dominant party. 3,200 something persons came out. It tells you. It tells it.
1,000 names were added to the list.
Yeah.
Although exactly.
Melissa,
That's
correct.
Yeah.
1,000 names.
So these, I think, so that it is very concerning. I mean, and it's for a party that area is supposed to, St. James North, supposed to be a safe seat. So I would expect at least 50%, knowing that you're in government, you have the majority, and this is your safe seat. We should have at least 50%, and your numbers should have been way higher than that. So it tells us that this election has been a defining moment for the Barbados Labour Party as well. And as I said before, undecided voters, new voters, and I think when we do our own analysis, we will see that as well. So there is a shift. There is a shift for us where our members are now coming out as well. And while you find the Barbados Labour Party members are staying home. So that's something that they need to look at, that something is not right. And that, although there is, as I said before, they've won the seat, but how did you win that seat in terms of your numbers? And so that will be something that I think you really need to speak with. But as I said before, we're going to hold them to task, because this is more than an election. Barbados Labour Party is good at just election mode, but when it comes, when it comes to governance, and that's what we will be working on. Go ahead.
And Felicia, I say this to you. Those 60% voters who did not vote in this election, this is now an opportunity for you to mobilize those people. Win their trust. And in the general election, I am positive, I am sure that they will give you their support.
I think the people, the voters, based upon what, and it was very interesting that you go to their homes and they tell you what their concerns are. But at the same time, and I need to share that with the Barbadian populace, because I think my experience is something that everyone should, take notice of.
Yeah.
People are not willing to vote anymore.
Apathy is apathy.
And not only because of that, because they're seeing that no matter how they try, this government is not going to assist or intervene on their behalf. for them, they felt that it wouldn't make a difference for them. The government has the majority. Yes, we may like the positions that you're taking, but it wouldn't make a difference. We will still be treated the way that, and of course, we saw that today. Right after a by-election, they have won the government, they have won their seat, and they've increasing the
Gas.
prices of gas the
Yeah.
next day. What kind of government does that to people, knowing it's very insensitive? It doesn't seem to really care. It's very self-centered that we've won, back to normal. We don't care about how you feel about anything else. And so and it is this reason why we have to continue to fight, because the people need to be strengthened. They need to have the courage. We have to show them how courageous we are. So even after losing a by-election, we're not going to, okay, we've done. It's not about us. We have to go back and ensure that we keep fighting so that the people can rise and challenge this government how they should. And I think the general election will be different. I strongly believe that, because Barbadians from outside was looking in to see what was happening on the ground. And I think that's very important as well.
Yeah, because we all. Sorry, you go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. I wanted to say something about new voters.
Yes.
We were at the office one day, we were watching a video of an said she's a new voter, 18, and she was speaking about her choice, 18 years old.
Mhm.
And it occurred to me that this is her first election. This is the first time she's going to vote, and she said she is going to vote. And it occurred to me that when the Barbados Party came into office, she was 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And that over the past 7 years, she's only seen the Barbados Labour Party. And what has she seen? I mean, honestly, a person in their teens observing the Barbados Labour Party, what are they seeing? Spectacle. And we talk about this all the time. Entertainment, that's all that is what she associates with the Barbados Labour Party. And perhaps that is what she associates with politics. Our challenge. How do we reach her? How do we reach these 18-year-old children?
My concern is
Because we don't do spectacle. We do substance.
Yeah.
So how are we going to reach them? By the LPTV, by seminars, by going into the communities and organizing events. And that is our challenge, to reach that 18 to 25 group that has seen their interpretation of politics is a BLP interpretation of politics, spectacle and party and
Handouts, party.
No, but I think we need.
The chap who drove past the office one night,
Yeah.
and he joked with it beside your voting. And he's quite happy. He said, it was Cavill and myself.
Yeah.
He said, "Man, you got to pay me for my vote."
Yes.
And Cavill and I looked quite embarrassed. He didn't quite know what to say.
Yeah.
And there was a sense of which he really was not joking,
Yeah.
and he was not going to vote. But that was his response. You got to pay me for my vote. Again, this is what they have seen in the last 7 years. This is what young people have seen. How do we deal with that?
And that's perhaps why we have such levels of unemployment in that constituency.
They're high
Be-
levels.
Yes. So the question that you'd want to ask is, especially to the new voters, especially to those young persons, what are your dreams? What would you like to accomplish? Because if you have a government that comes around only when they want your vote, and they're not providing any kinds of intervention, meaning they're not giving you any training, they're not giving you any kind of internship, they're not thinking about how to develop you as a person, but they only want you to fed. And once you fed, that's it for them. Then these are the kinds of questions we need to raise for our youth. This is a government that speaks about youth development, but we do not have a community center.
It was about
Correct. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent
So-
point. Yeah.
Is there a community center?
No, they
You
No.
don't.
get a sense of the
No, the WIM does not
energy of
have,
young
no,
people,
they,
like how you would see it.
no.
In Silver Hill office,
Sorry.
tennis and football and so on. I found St. James North a very interesting constituency in that regard, almost what you call a sleepy constituency. where
Yeah. I don't
people
even
just
think
go
that
to their
I've
houses and-
I've come across a playing field per se besides the playing field at the schools.
Yeah, the schools and the WIM. which was a
Yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
Saturday
at the WIM.
afternoon.
And besides that, there are
Yeah,
none.
yeah.
Only one community
And the
center.
Western Community Center that's closed.
Yes, it's,
Yeah.
well, I wouldn't allow people to go in there. It's not a place that, but it tells you in terms of,
So what do young people do for recreation?
that's a question. And I think that's what we need to look at as a party. We need to look at how we can enable and support and empower the youth in that community.
We have a
I have
comment.
to recognize, so I'll let you get on to the
Mhm.
comment, that St. James North is prime real estate, the village,
Yeah.
That's true.
and
That's true.
condos. So therefore,
So that the interests of young people, local
No,
young
it's to
people,
work in the.
Just
are
put aside.
into consideration.
Yeah.
all right,
All right, we have a comment online from Marva Hunt. I have been listening to politics for many years, and I have really seen a politician like Mrs. Dujon. Her characteristics are so unique. I see the love, the emotion for the people, and so much more. Thank you very much, Marva.
Well said. Well said.
we had quite a few very interesting comments and for Felicia. So there's still some people in your corner. And as we said earlier in the show before you joined us, that you have now this great opportunity to build on that and to go out there and to start building relationships with the constituents of St. James North.
Mhm.
And I'm certain they will see, as one of the persons commented, that you are indeed the better candidate.
Well, I want to share. I received a call from an elder. I think she's about 84. She called me later this afternoon and she said, "Congratulations, congratulations. You came second." And it warmed my heart. But the elders, she was so excited. I love, but it is, and that's the relations that I have with the elders in their constituents, because they see me. I don't think they understand that I'm older than 20 something, so they see me as they see me as a granddaughter. So when they speak to me, they speak to me as if I'm one of their grandchildren. So when she called, she was so excited. She was like, I saw it on the news. You came second. You did a good job. And I was like, thank you very much. Thank you. But it doesn't work that way. But at the same time, we need to recognize that numbers are people, regardless of whether we got 7, 2, or 3 votes. And I think this is what the Barbados Labour Party advocates, or whoever they are, what they tend to do is to look at the numbers and laugh, but they're human beings.
Yeah.
And they're part of the constituents. And I want to thank every single one of them that voted for the Democratic Labour Party. That means you appreciate our vision. That means you appreciate the work that we do. So thank you very much. And I know that every person that voted for me, that you have a family as well, and you have a dream and visions. And thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you that you took the time and to give us that courage. And that courage is very important to me. We may not have won, but your vote makes me feel that like I have won. And I really want to say thank you on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party for that.
Well, we should say thank you.
Oh, we're
because
going there tomorrow.
yes, we are.
Yes.
Even those who did not vote.
Yes, of course, yes.
They were not hostile.
No.
We met no hostility.
No,
in
none at
St. James,
all.
None whatsoever. So we say thanks. as a party.
Yes.
And I do believe that as a party, we do intend to do something a little bit more in terms of saying thank you to the constituents of St. James North. And not just to say thank you, but also to let them know that Felicia Dujon is there to stay and will be continuing to work within the constituency as well.
Right. And and as I said before, I want them to know that you can still call me at any time. If there's any matters that you want me to intervene for you, I may not be able to give you all the thousands of dollars, but I will be able to put this government on notice. I will be working on your behalf from my heart and soul, as you've seen. I will give you my all. So whatever concerns that you have, let me know so that I can raise it and challenge this government, because it's very difficult to challenge a government in and of itself. The government that has power, the government has the financial resources, the government that has our taxpayers' monies. So I will be there, I am, as I said before, and continue to work with me so that I can champion your causes.
And now the by-election always gave us an opportunity to look to national issues.
Yeah.
So I wanted, as a political leader, after this by-election, where is your thinking in terms of, and your view on how we place the national issues on the agenda?
Well, they remain on the agenda, and Andre, we went into this campaign talking about 5 C's or 6 C's. And
5.
the top 5.
Yeah, 5.
Cost of living, crime, culture of moral decay, corruption. Those are 4.
Constitutional conundrum.
They will remain on the agenda. because they're common to all constituencies. Those are genuinely national issues. And of course, cost of living. I mean, that applies everywhere. And Felicia saw a lot of suffering in the constituency, quite suffering.
Too much.
Yeah. They don't protest very loudly. She'd go to the house and they'd call her in and speak to her quietly. It's a very interesting constituency in that regard.
Streams.
Yeah. But and we intend to keep those issues on the agenda because somebody was saying to me after we did one of these shows, they say that the viewership went up exponentially when we started to discuss the kind of cost of living. And we have to keep that on the agenda. When I was on my way here, I was so pleased to hear the analysis as to cost of living, that taxation affects cost of living. A lot of people don't think of that immediately. People think that there's some great economic theory or policy that will resolve cost of living, the crisis in cost of living. And this panel was able to deal with it quite incisively tonight. Look, you're going to have high cost of living every time you increase gas prices, for example. A component part of that is taxation. And so I think a member of the panel said, and it will cause increases in prices because people who use gasoline are involved in
Supermarkets, businesses.
prices. So we have to keep cost of living on the agenda. And of course, crime. Was there an advisory from Britain sometime within the last 24 hours? Somebody sent me something.
Oh, no.
I'm not sure. I'd like to check these
Yes.
things first. But
No.
we're sticking with those issues unless more issues come along. I think those are the issues: cost of living, crime, corruption. Barbadians are still very concerned, not only about Hotel, which was next door to us, but Janet's Lane. And there's a lot more to Janet's Lane. People, I remember, well, I'm not going to call the name of the neighborhood, but when we went to that neighborhood, people were very concerned about having to pay land taxes. A lot of Barbadians are in arrears and land taxes. Lots of Barbadians are in arrears. And we take a prime land in the city and give it away to an organization that claims to have billions of dollars. And people feel very angry about that. So the government needs to stop feeling so smug and comfortable. You win an election and you going around boasting and so on. There's a lot of discontent out there. A lot of discontent.
We have a comment online from CD. Please campaign on freedom of information legislation. This government has too many dark corners in their governance.
Yeah, but that's the general thing. Government doesn't feel obliged to give information. I mean, look how we have to beg the Prime Minister to bring the travel documents down to Parliament, and she felt that she was doing something so kind. It's not an act of kindness. Barbadians are entitled to know this. They're entitled to know how the government spends our taxes. So, you're not doing this by bringing travel documents down.
And you see that the transparency is also not there because not a word about the increase in gas prices on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
They clearly
Did
that.
But, yeah. Well, Blackman was sworn in today. The cabinet always meets on Thursday. So the first thing that they met and did was made the decision to increase the gas prices right after the elections.
No, the decision was probably even there from before because traditionally you increase the gas prices on the first Sunday of
Each month. Yeah.
So, but by the first Sunday of the month, we had already identified that there would be a by-election. So that time it was not appropriate for the
increase
for the campaign machinery. And they couldn't even wait until the first Sunday of the month, which is not of June, which is not too far from here. So
why the rush?
Why the rush?
Yeah.
So the whole narrative that the economy is booming and there's bounty out there. Well, the bounty is because they're grabbing all your money, and it seems as though the Barbados Labour Party believes that we are supposed to have the money and you're not supposed to have any cash in your pocket. Once upon a time, they had a slogan that we will put money in your pocket or something like that. But they want to dry every cent out of you with taxes.
But we have to press the government into a national debate on taxation policy. Why are you taxing us so much? What are you doing with the taxes? If there's bounty, presumably sometimes you tax less. because
Yes.
there's money circulating in the economy, and the economy grows. You therefore don't need to tax.
Switch tax.
So that's a national
Switch
discourse
tax.
that we need to encourage in Barbados.
Economic fundamentals seem to be lacking on the other side.
Mhm.
It wasn't me, but it was famously said many decades ago, for a country to tax itself to prosperity is like a man trying to lift up a bucket while he's standing in it.
Yeah, that's right.
It will never work.
So that
Will
it
never work.
reveals, Elvis, that there is something fundamentally wrong with the economy.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're
We
heavily,
need to tax like this all the time. There's
Something's
something
wrong.
fundamentally
Yes.
wrong.
we're too heavily reliant on tourism. We are not
Yes,
improving our manufacturing industry.
talk about agriculture. but-
Yeah, we're not doing anything with agriculture.
That is-
We
So-
sent sheep to Guyana.
Yeah,
And where are they now?
I have no
They're
idea.
not to be seen in Guyana
I
either.
have no idea.
So we are taxing our way out of debt. The interest rates on the debt are extremely high. So we are increasing taxes yearly just to pay interest rates alone. So
Right. And the comment there from Patricia Calendar, keep on the issues, Mr. Thorne. Don't let up, don't retreat, don't surrender, and they don't think that you plan to.
No, I don't. We're here tonight, and
Yeah, exactly.
one night after the election defeat.
Mhm.
First time in the history of Barbados.
Mhm.
People normally go overseas or probably to some hole.
vacation.
Yeah, this is the first time a party has done this.
Mhm.
24 hours later.
And I think too that this by-election gave a number of our sportspersons and candidates an opportunity to get their feet wet,
Mhm.
and I believe that they will now be speaking out more.
Mhm.
You can hear it in Melissa.
Yeah.
Oh, that feet. Yes, star.
Yeah.
No star, no
But I told people, a lot of people ask me, "Oh, who's Dr. Whickham? Who's Dr. Whickham?" I said he preaches, so speak it up.
It's
proud.
natural.
Yeah, it's natural. And Ainsley.
Yes,
And,
yeah.
I told people Ainsley.
Are we going
been
to
in the
lower
church for a
their
long time,
tax
so,
and the
public
VAT?
speaking,
Are we going to
there's
lower
There's
that?
a close approximation.
Are we
between
going to
preaching
ask the government
Yes,
because
yeah.
the elderly
You
cannot
get your
afford it at all?
ministry.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you engage
Switch tax
with
and
with
the VAT,
congregation.
it's killing them.
But yeah, I'm no stars. I just want best for my country.
Yeah.
And if I have something to offer, something to say, we'll try to do so in humility. Right? We don't do celebrity. That's not our thing. That was one of the precepts, that allowed me to be able to come and help and assist the party in any way I can. It was not about, and I picked that up, when approached, it was not about trying to be a celebrity. We just want what's best for Barbados. We're just trying to help
Well,
Barbados.
you did attract a lot of attention.
And I didn't have to pretend to be somebody else.
Mhm.
So I'm glad that I was able to draw attention to the
To the
issues
issues, yeah, like.
and put some stuff out
You did
there
draw a
that,
lot of attention to yourself too. That's the consequence of it.
All right, we have a comment online from Black Roses. My husband and I saw the fight for the people in Washington campaign and are now ready to rejoin the party as
Wow.
we appreciate the direction it is taking.
Oh, very nice.
Lovely.
This is good.
So,
Come home.
as I said, we do have a lot of positives
yeah.
coming out of this election campaign.
Mhm.
And it is one campaign where, as I said earlier, people are actually messaging you to thank you for highlighting things or to suggest to you, look, these are things that need to be spoken of, that you need to talk about. And that shows that Barbadians are listening
Mhm.
and they want to have a voice to voice their concern.
Yeah.
So it is very important for us as the Democratic Labour Party to champion those causes and not to let the people of Barbados down, because I believe that they're looking forward for us to be the government, the next government when the general election is called. So as many test runs as the Prime Minister wants to call, if she's ready for the by-election in St. Thomas, well, we will see that as another test run, and we will take up that opportunity to put the national issues. But the point is that Barbadians need to have these national issues addressed, and they need to see a change in the direction of the country. And the Barbados Labour Party, even with Chad Blackman, does not seem capable of addressing the needs of the people of the country. You have
Right.
another comment.
All right, another comment from Dale Worrell. Good night, honest voices for the people. Congrats to Team DLP to the world. Felicia, you were the better candidate on paper and in person. your passion, your drive, honesty, commitment, and style of dress.
All right, so we're almost in the final minutes of the show for tonight, and I'm going to tell you from early, we will not be going over tonight.
Yeah, we're tired. Still need to rest. Yeah.
Yes, we need
With
to,
our
to
rest.
get home
It was
before
a big
midnight
fight.
for a change.
Oh yeah, you were doing 2 and 2:30 the last 3 weeks.
Exactly.
You were
So,
a good manager though. Really.
Yes, thank you,
Well,
my
thank you.
campaign manager.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very
A
much.
lot of people didn't understand that you were down there late in the day.
all right, because if we have people still working, I don't think it is fair for me to go home and leave people out there
Yeah.
working. So that's the way how I am in terms of making sure that things are done, and then you leave with them. And not only that, but also to look at ways that you can do it better.
Mhm.
Because we found a solution to that. Because one night we actually had to stay until 2:30. But then after that, we found a solution, and it seemed as though there's one particular night that we left too soon because I got a call from someone who lost something at the meeting, and they called to say if the people were still there. But by the time they called, no, we left every since. So
Very
you
good.
can help that person by going looking for it. So you need to run an effective campaign. It's not always going to come out the way that you want. You have to do different tests. And there are a lot of takeaways from this campaign that we can use to better ourselves for the January election. And we'll not disclose those now, but we will discuss them and put those things into practice because right now we are, as someone mentioned, we are in January election mode. We had a by-election, but we are really in January election mode, and that's one of the reasons why we are here tonight to show to Barbados that we mean business. And we are in January election mode, and we are going to be ready whenever it is called. And we are going to use every opportunity. I believe that the producer has a few clips for us, and I think one that we should go to is that song from a constituent in for Felicia.
Oh,
And as Julie Moody said, don't wait until last minute to start your campaign in St. Thomas. We won't do that. There's a candidate in place, and we would expect for that candidate to be on the ground, knocking on doors and, getting everything in order. And it's not just a candidate, but a candidate with experience as well.
Yo, when I look at this song, I remember this song, Who Does That For Us All? Because of the love, man, it's lit. I can't even tell you without this grace and without...
well, good. We're not moving.
Right. No, we did encounter a few challenges in the election, on election day as well. I think that these are things that need to be spoken of a little bit more.
Yeah, the voters.
And also with the voters, because we did have calls of persons who were disenfranchised of their opportunity to vote, not because of their own mistake, but because of the mistakes in the electoral and boundaries. I think that that's something that we need to also look at another level. Because if you are going to rush the country into a by-election or a general election, you need to make sure that the back end of that election, in terms of your list, is correct.
Yes.
And
Shouldn't you check with EBC first? Electoral and Boundaries Commission
Yeah.
before
calling
calling
the election to
election.
make sure that they're correct. Because here are some of the things that came up yesterday. Now, when this government announced the new ID card, one of the things they said that ID card would be used to verify your address.
Mhm.
Remember that persons had issues with it because of the barcode scan and so forth. So how is it that individuals went to Electoral and Boundaries and carried all of their information and registered for the new ID card in one location? And they did say to you that this is the location that you will now be registered for on the electoral lists. And they also mandated, because I think that, I don't know if they passed the legislation, that if you live in an area for 3 months or so, that you're supposed to update it with the electoral and boundaries. So they're supposed to have this perfect system working where you went in for your new ID card and you gave that address, that is where you should be on the list. But how is it that you had individuals going in to vote and registered in St. James North, but yet still on the voters list, they're not in St. James North, but in other constituencies,
Central.
right? So that there seems to be something wrong with that. And the government cannot be forcing this country into, this is what, how many elections have we had in 7 years?
2.
1, 2,
3, 4 elections, 2 generals and a by-election, 2 by-elections and 2 general elections in 7 years. So does the Electoral and Boundaries Commission actually have the time to get the information correct? And even though they also said that the list is published, when the election is announced, the list is published, and part of your responsibility is to check to make sure that your information is on that list. How many of you know that?
May I say to you, Andre, that Melissa and I were at the, and Shaquani were at the Electoral and Boundaries Commission office yesterday with 2 voters from St. James North who were not allowed to vote. They voted last night and they were not allowed to vote yesterday. And it is not their fault. The ID card people put them in the wrong address, out of St. James North.
Yeah.
So it wasn't their fault. And we were there pleading. We spoke to the chairman of the EBC, Mr. Ramon Ali. We spoke to Miss Lisa, what's the name again? Miss Lisa Collins, yes, the deputy CEO. We spoke to the supervisor of elections. She was very nice, actually.
Yeah.
Don't remember. Do you remember the name?
No. Sherlyn.
Sherlyn, yeah. Something. And these people were disenfranchised, and we found that it was so casually dealt with. They were so casually dismissed, and there we were arguing, look, these people have a right to vote. And we were there with the same 2 ladies. We took them up there around 4:30.
Yeah, around 4:30.
Yeah, and it didn't matter who they vote for. It is if it's their right, it's their franchise to vote.
We're allowed to exercise the right. And one of the ladies lives in the house with her mom. Her mother was allowed to vote. They live in the same house, and she
Same
was allowed
address,
to vote.
yeah.
Same address. But the EBC registered her in the wrong address, and she was disenfranchised due to the EBC's fault.
Right. So therefore, do not call an election if you know that you do not have an up-to-date list. And also, you issued a national list first in January, right? And then I think her up-to-date list came in probably March or something like that, because the list that you issued in January, there were issues with it. So you had to go back in March and get a correction to that list. And now you're calling the election at the end of April, and you want to tell me that 1,000 persons
Were added.
to the list
They had the postman doing it.
April.
You know this. They had the postman doing your registrations, which is not within their job description.
There was also one issue that I was really disappointed with, someone who was not allowed to vote. Now, this individual, unless you're a politician, you don't know the difference between St. James North and St. James Central.
Correct.
This individual, because they wanted to vote in the 2022 election, remember that facility was made online for you to check to see where you're registered to vote. They used that facility to check to see where they were registered, and they were registered in St. James Central. Now, the Electoral and Boundaries have them listed in an area that they never lived. They lived on a particular street in St. James North, but they registered as living in a similar street in another constituency where they never lived.
Yeah.
They lived there for 16 years. So the fault is not theirs. But because they used the app to check where they were registered to vote for the 2022 election and voted, they were denied of an opportunity to vote in this election because it would be taken that they knew. But not everybody, unless you're a politician, knows the difference between St. James Central, the boundaries of St. James Central and St. James North. These are the things that the Electoral and Boundaries needs to get correct. And a government that is interested in free and fair election, because this affects the fairness of the election and also affects the right of every individual to vote, should make sure that the list is from the end of the electoral and boundaries is correct. And I also wonder, because we would have only have known about those additional 1,000 people when
Like
we got
3
our
days
new list,
before.
which was the before.
Yeah, 3 days before the
Friday.
election.
So
Yeah.
how did the Barbados Labour Party get out their circulars to those people?
Precisely.
And a popular social media personality knew about the additional 1,000 before we did.
Popular.
Yeah.
Or infamous.
Infamous.
Okay. So all of these are things that we need to look at. And we really did learn a lot from the St. James North by-election campaign. And these are things that we are putting into practice. With regards to voter apathy, I think you would have raised it earlier and said that we need to find a way to reach out to those young people. I think the way is education, because not all young people are caught up with the hype. And you'll be surprised that when you actually do have a conversation with them, they actually are following you, are listening to you, and they're thinking about certain things. So you cannot win everybody with glitter and hype.
And great, it's worse too, because in our time, young people, they were more socially involved in their home communities, clubs and so on. They're not clubs now. I mean, they play football and so on. But community life is less vibrant, less involved, less active. So that reaching young people through those
Avenues.
avenues is not on. In the old days, somebody would come in from community development or some lecturer, and he would come to the club on Friday nights and talk to people. No avenue for that now.
No.
Yeah, you need for civics, teaching of civics and so forth. And one of the things I wanted to mention too, we didn't get the opportunity to do it, but I also want to commend Bertha the Pizza
Yes.
for her presentations every single night on the campaign.
Yes.
And especially when she dealt with crime, but also the way that she took the time to articulate, having been someone who lived in that constituency and knows well the constituency and
Yeah,
all the
family
and the
names, yeah.
of the person. So I want to commend Bertha de Pisa, for playing a very strong and leading role on our political platform. As I said, we weren't going to go over, but we've gone over
10 minutes.
So I am going to allow the panelists an opportunity to give their final comments, starting with Jason.
Thank you, Andre. Indeed, I want to thank the Barbadian public for supporting our candidate Felicia Dujon, especially those in St. James North. We also thank you for the encouraging words you send out to us via phone, via the internet, and so on. And I want to speak specifically now to those people in St. Peter. I am here, I'm ready, and I'm willing to fight for you. You can hear more from me in the days, weeks, and months to come. Thank you, Barbados.
I'm going to make the cameraman work because I'm going to Malissa Howard next to give her final comment.
I just want to thank the constituents of St. James North for the love and support that you have given us while we were canvassing in your constituency. Thank you for the support that you've given to our candidate. And I hope that when she continues to traverse the constituency, that you would continue to open your arms to her and welcome her into your homes. Thank you.
All right, and Dr. Whickham.
I'm thankful. I love meeting, engage with persons, so thank you for welcoming us into your homes, to meet with you. And we will continue on your behalf and also on the behalf of White Barbados to raise issues of great concern to you and to ensure that we are a voice for you where the government isn't taking your best interests at heart. We will continue to represent your best interests at heart. For me, not about personal benefit at all. We want what is best for persons.
All right. And the pocket rocket, Miss Felicia Dujon, who has promised to be out there in the field with the constituents of St. James North.
Well, I would like to thank the entire Barbadian populace for the support and encouragement that they've given us. And I just want to share that our candidates and the Democratic Labour Party will be back into the communities, not only St. James North, but we will be back into the communities. Continue to embrace us, continue to share your concerns and the issues and comments that you may have to share it with us. Feel free to do so, because we are working on your behalf. And one of the major lessons that I have learned from this by-election is the element of humility and to be humble. And it's not about coming and being boastful, but about being humble in the presence of you and in the presence of God, because this is what we came to do. We came to work on your behalf, and nothing else really matters but that. And so you can look forward in seeing our candidates in every constituency. We will continue working hard, and I want you to embrace the Democratic Labour Party, because we are working and doing our best. We are trying our best to remove a corrupt government in our realms, and this is what we will continue to do. So you will see us with our yellow and blue shirts. We're not going anywhere. We are resilient, and we will continue to remain humble and with humility to share our message and your message to the wider populace.
All right, thank you, Felicia. And over to you, Mr. Political Leader.
Yes. We take a lot for granted in Barbados during political campaigns. We're really going into people's houses, literally into people's houses, into their neighborhoods, doing meetings. And there's a sense in which we're probably disrupting their lives. So I think we need to say thanks to the people in St. James North for the very hospitable welcome that they gave to us, whether it's meetings, whether it's Pocket Rocket coming to the door, conversations with them. So we really need to say thanks to them. I want to say thanks to Felicia for being the standard bearer. Yeah, as James said, when a batsman is at the crease, he becomes the team.
Yeah.
So for the last 3 weeks, you were the Democratic Labour Party for
Thank you.
the purpose in that constituency, and you represented as well. On the platform, off the platform, you carried yourself with dignity, and this party owes you a lot. I want to also thank Cavill, and David Boeing and Malissa Howard. Those are the 3 people who walk with you, I think, just about every day. And this sun felt hotter than it has felt.
And my brother.
This party owes before you a lot.
Yes, thank you. And my brother as well.
And your brother, yes, your brother. And to thank the general membership of the Democratic Labour Party for coming out at night and giving us an audience. Some of the people in the constituency are very shy. Some of them prefer to sit on their patio and listen to the meetings. And the membership was able to get money to
I didn't know we're coming tomorrow to say thank you. Very just walking through. No big noise.
Thanks to you, Andre, for managing this campaign.
Yes, excellent.
Excellent job. I apologize to you for being so cheap.
Money over morality, morality over money.
I apologize to you for being so cheap. I rather tight ship with the money.
Finances.
The finances. I heard the discussion on campaign. Like, excellent discussion. I hope we pursue that even further, because parties have a right to do proper campaigning. So that's it from me to manage.
All right, thank you to all of you. And I just want to say that this is one by-election campaign that we can go out of and say that we owe no one anything. So we
Still got some bills to work.
we have bills that we are going to pay tomorrow, but we will end the campaign without owing anyone anything.
Yes.
And we ran a very effective campaign in that way. And we will also, Felicia will also be going into the community to do a thank you, but we will also be organizing a motorcade as well.
When is that?
Well, I would want to say that if we can do it on Sunday, we can do it then, and then go back to our Rotundo office to celebrate, but we will send out the notice for that. So if it is not this Sunday, it will definitely be by the following Sunday, right? But we will definitely be coming into the community to say thank you with a motorcade, and then we will be inviting all of our supporters to the Rotundo office.
Sounds like lunch.
Where we will have a meal and we have refreshments and everything there. We are going to celebrate. We are staying in St. James North constituency. And I also want to say to the persons online that the Democratic Labour Party is open for business and for new members, and you can visit our page. Our website, dlpbds.org, and download our membership form if you're interested in joining the party. There, you can also go to our headquarters at George Street and get membership forms. Contact any of our candidates to get forms. Felicia said that there will be forms in St. James North. So this is a good opportunity to rebuild. So we're inviting you, if you're interested in becoming a member, you're a supporter, but you're not yet a member. Someone mentioned that we need to rebuild our branches. dlpbds.org, download the membership form, complete the form, and send it into the party. All of the information is there. Or go to DLP headquarters at George Street any day. And go to the DLP office at George Street, and you can get the forms there. So we are open for business. We are not dejected, and we really thank you for your support. And we will continue to put a message there for the people of Barbados. So thank you for joining us tonight on DLP TV Youth Vibes. We look forward to seeing you on Tuesday night, where we will have another DLP TV series. Do have a good night and have a good weekend.